First, Chairman Wagner, thank you very much for calling this committee specifically to build upon the important goals of bolstering our private markets, expanding accredited investments, and encouraging investments in small businesses throughout the country. I want to thank each of you on the panel who took time out of what I know is a very busy daily life to come and do what is on no one's bucket list, testify before Congress. So compliments to each of you, and for the family members who are here present, thank you for supporting your family in this. Look, you all have very, very incredible stories to share, and it's truly, I think, a lot of Cinderella stories that have been made successful. Mr. Ward, I'm going to focus in on you. Look, you had to leave your hometown to go to California, to network, to find angel investors. You went through this process over a decade ago, and the challenge is that, you know, great ideas and American dreams, as Mr. Brooks said earlier, happen all across this country. But you were forced to find capital in those very select markets, specifically, as we've identified in this committee, in basically 3 states, Massachusetts, New York, and California. And there's a lot more out there and a lot greater potential. So I'd like to point out, in my home state of Iowa, and a number of us represent smaller states on this, just for the rest of the world watching this, 33,000 new small businesses were started in Iowa alone last year. And they did it without the benefit of being in Silicon Valley. Now imagine for a second what this entire country might look like if we were discussing what is capable this afternoon and we built upon the Jobs Act of 2012 just a decade later. So, Mr. Ward, share with us, first of all, just that story for you, how you got to California, and really what that meant for what you left behind.
So I arrived in California in 2010, didn't know anybody, didn't have a job, was brought there for family reasons, decided to start a company as one does if you move to Silicon Valley against your will. And part of that process was trying to meet other founders, trying to meet other investors. The rule back then, which hasn't changed today, is if you want to get an investor, you have to find an introduction to an investor, you have to meet that investor personally, and it was months and months of just networking and finding people. That hasn't changed today. If you're someone who's not in California in the thick of it, it's extremely hard to do. If you're in Iowa, it might even be impossible. I think the path to creating an on-ramp for founders in different geographies and regions is to create strong, robust emerging managers and angel networks in those regions. And we're starting to see this happen in different hubs like Nashville, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, and there's no reason why we can't do that in places like Iowa as well.
So let me ask then, you've seen this landscape change dramatically just in the last decade. What other opportunities are there for new and emerging businesses to be able to tap into those markets without having to move to the place where the network already exists? How do we expand that network out there, and what kind of things can we be doing on this panel?
Yeah, I think expanding accredited investor rules will help a lot. For example, in Iowa, you know, an accredited investor rule is different than, it's the same rule but has different impact in Iowa than in California. So I think creating those angel networks by lowering the barriers for access to capital, lowering barriers for angel investors who want to graduate into running their own committed funds, I think will help as well. I think one of the things that we forget is all investors are entrepreneurs also. They start their own funds, and so anything we can do to help those entrepreneurs build their businesses, which is to invest in other entrepreneurs, has a flywheel effect on the ecosystem.
Mr. Ward, couldn't agree with you more, and compliments what you've done with Carta in such a short time. Mr. Brooks, I would like to return to you here on this idea of really expanding the American dream. I think one of the things that we underappreciate is just how many dreams are out there that have yet to be fulfilled. Perhaps you could give us just a little bit of perspective as a father of 5 daughters, one who's biracial. How have you guys managed this, and what are we leaving off the table that we could really grow?
Just more access, more opportunities, and it's really so simple. I mean, it's a fantastic place to be. It was on my bucket list, so I'm crossing that off today. Thank you. But it's so simple, and it's creating more opportunities. That's it. This expanding accredited investors creates more opportunities for people to invest. Yeah, you're going to get some wrong, but guess what? I can go to the craps table and hop the yo as many times as I want, but I can't sit here and invest in a great company that my friend is starting that I know will be fantastic but the rich, wealthy, elite class, white male mostly, that lives in Silicon Valley can go and invest in my friend and become a multi-billionaire maybe because of it, while I sit here in the same position.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I'd say always bet on the heartland. You may find itself very surprised. With that, I yield my time.